Finally, page number 3 of Christian's letter to Newell from prison. This is already old news by the time I'm making this video, but I wanted to make it anyways because this is something that truly fascinates me. Graphology is a thing that allows you to get to know a person in a very intimate way, a profound way, in a way that very little people know how to disguise their true motives, their true thoughts, their true nature. I discovered very recently that graphology existed, so I'm not incredibly knowledgeable about it. Also, I'm just an amateur, so there's so many things that I leave out. There's so many details that only a professional is going to be able to tell you truly, but still something that I like. Is one of those things that I like alongside art, body language, and just like random pop culture shit, and internet like characters, and just behavior in general. Behavior is probably my favorite subject ever. But moving on, as the letter says right here. Page number 3. Wait. So on the previous page, he was talking about basically how he wants you to believe that he is the modern reincarnation of Jesus Christ, and that, well, you don't need any more than that, really. That's it. I mean, if somebody tells you that, that's pretty much all you need to know. Ya que tanto que sea una de los infumables. ¡Ah! Woo! That just gives you an idea of the kind of mental sheltering he's putting in his mind to cope with his reality. And, well, I mean, what else can I say? Okay, moving on, as the letter says. Christian letter, page 3. Moving on, with all that stated, your last letter. Next, why I had transferred that money on Saturday, July 31st. I had transferred that money on Saturday, July 31st. Josh had absolutely no right to in relaying that detail publicly. Notice how he starts his letter with his already trademark insecurity and decaying mood. As I said in every video, because he just keeps doing that, a person who keeps going up and down constantly in their handwriting is a person who is telling you they have a very conflicted mood. They go from depressive to hopeful, and then basically high and low energy, very little confidence. Also, he's not using a lot of force right there, not as much as in other parts of the letters, which pressing very little whenever you write indicates a lack of self-confidence, doubt, and he's also writing very rushed, extremely rushed, more than in the previous letter. You have to take note whenever you analyze somebody's writing that the circumstances also apply to the way you write. You don't write the same way every day, every moment, in every circumstance, in every situation. He was probably being timed to write this, so maybe his time was running out and he was writing more rushed, but something tells me that Chris doesn't really care about that. He doesn't really think about that too much. It's not somebody who is very thoughtful about those type of rules anywhere he is, so I doubt he was really. Also, he's trying to convince himself that he's Jesus Christ, so he probably thinks he's above any kind of rule like that. So I don't think that the hurrying nature that you see him manifesting here in his rushed writing is because of being timed in prison. I think it's just because he wanted to get the message across. He was like overflowing with emotion, and that's why he writes so rushed in some parts. All of this page is actually very rushed, but some parts are lightly written, some parts have more force in it, and we're gonna see that in a minute. Also, again, as always, this is showing already a very characteristic trait of Chris ever since, like, ever, which is pretty much the fact that he doesn't understand privacy. Sometimes he puts the letters almost on top of each other, and then in another line, or just and then the next word, he uses excess space. As I said in the first video that I made about this, the normal distance between letters and words, between words, it's about your lowercase m. The way, the size that you write that letter is the normal distance of separation that you need to apply to, well, that people apply to the in between words. And Christian doesn't understand that. As I said before, in psychology, letters and words represent people and things. So the way you write them are the way you treat people. The way your brain processes the words that you're writing are the ways that the brain processes the people and the things around you. That is why it is possible to determine people's nature with the way they write. Friday the 30th. You want to see an example of what I was talking about? Whenever he is processing data in his brain, the little dots that he draws are more rounded. Round dots, like the little dot that you write on top of your J's, of your Y's, etc. The points, the periods, all of that, they indicate, whenever they're more rounded like a bubble, they indicate imagination. And whenever he writes data, he draws them more bigger and rounder. Starting from this part, he's feeling more stable about his thought process, but he is feeling sad. He's feeling sad. Most of the letters that he writes are more like squished. Whenever people write very squished, like to the size, like smashed words, are people with lower self-esteem and people who are feeling overall like sadder. For example, people with very high self-esteem write taller letters, and you can see it here. For example, Chris feels very sad and overall down about the circumstances around him, but he feels very high about himself. So it's very curious that whenever he writes I, the I that he uses is very tall and outstanding. So he has a very high image of himself, a very ego-filled image of himself. He thinks very highly of himself, but he feels very down and sad about the circumstances around him. Forced out of my home and temple, had nowhere else to go, had less than $50. Another curious detail here. Check this part out. Okay, so Chris erases words that have less emotional connotation to him, and he corrects words that have more emotional connotation to him. For example, money, he doesn't have a big notion about money. He wants money, but for him, I think money doesn't really... Money for him is just numbers. There's no emotional attachment to money for him. You can see the way he treats money. He just like, he spends it immediately. He doesn't really care. Okay, so when he wrote $50, he changed the number that he originally wrote. I don't know if it's 10 or whatever, but he erases it and he writes a new number. Up to this point, he has corrected a lot of times, and none of those times has he erased, like doodled, like patched on top of the word and written a new one. He has always corrected, and all those words have emotional connotations to him. I'm gonna go back a little bit to the previous page. Reincarnated, he corrected right there. Reawakened, he corrected right there. And in the next page that I'm going to read in another video, he erased another word again, a word that doesn't have any emotional connotation at all. $50 between pocket money and only a couple bucks or so in my bank account. No money in my PayPal. See how bad he felt when he wrote that, when he was remembering that little piece of information there. The way he wrote money in my... You see what I meant? The letters are very like squished. down, and he made a lot of emphasis on the no. It hurt him. You can tell he felt a lot of emotion when he wrote no, and then money in my PayPal. No. Patreon was not due for a payout until Sunday, and as I was not coming into my bank. See how emotionally unstable he became writing that. Again, going up and then down. Also overly rushed. He wants to get through that part like as fast as possible. He writes very hooked in that part. Hooks indicates clinging to the past. Also they indicate hurtfulness and stuff like that. Harriet and Tom Ashby cast me out before I even arrived to Midlothian. Though the vast, what's that? What's that word? The vast was major uncomfortable. Josh had wired 1,000 to my bank that Friday, but it would not arrive until after on Monday. Little food and options. And you try bumming in my parking lot without feeling insecure and paranoid. I can imagine, like, if he was talking, I can imagine him in that part, like, widening his eyes a lot. The way he fucking does it all the time. Also, as I mentioned previously in one of my videos, I think the very first one, he uses both margins of the sheet of the paper. Usually people use one or the other, the left one or the right one. They both have different contexts, and whenever a person goes in between both, one line it's one part to one side and then the other one is to the other one. That is a very strong indicator, well, as you would be able to imagine, basically a mess, an emotional mess, insecurity and conflict. Also somebody who doesn't know how to organize themselves. Right side is the more conservative, logical side. Left side is the more emotional one. The van was majorly uncomfortable. Josh had wired 1,000 to my bank that Friday, but it would not arrive until after on Monday. Little food and options. And you try bullying me about parking lot without feeling insecure and paranoid. I need safety and comfort as quickly as possible. You see how his emotions peaked when he wrote, I needed safety and comfort as quickly as possible. It's like his letters became bigger, longer, more aggressively written. He thought that and he felt that when he wrote that. That is why I transferred that money. He's really rubbing in your face that he was going to pay it back in full. He even makes a line there. He even writes it. Even had 150 from Patreon on Sunday the 1st that went straight to Barbie. Oh, sorry about that. Barbie. Never mind. Barbie. Stop. Barbie. 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 Barbie Chan's bank account. I would. That little O there has something that escapes me. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but would have paid the remaining 600. I thought it said goo. The remaining 500 destined test and betrayed me. You see? Failed God bonded. Wait. I skipped ahead. Remaining 500 Monday or Tuesday, but Noel had to fail his destined test. Dude had to fail his destined test and betrayed me. Do you see how he felt when he wrote that? He was thinking that and he was feeling the shit out of that part right there. Failed his destined test. His destined test. Just let that sink in for a moment. See how big that he wrote that part. He felt that shit. And betrayed me. It's funny that he didn't wrote betrayed me in like super gigantic capital letters. Maybe he's not convinced that he actually betrayed him. He felt there is retained energy in that A of betrayed. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. Like I was betrayed and jailed with. Like I was betrayed and jailed with a kiss over 2,000 years ago. Now, and as of past arrest, I have absolutely. You see what I meant there? I have. He corrected. Absolutely. There was more emotion for him in absolutely. He corrected that, and the way that that word is more emotional for him than $50. It's because in this part he's talking about himself, and he's like saying I have absolutely no ways, like explaining yourself. There's emotion there, and he doesn't erase that word, he corrects it. $50 money for him. He doesn't really have attachment to money. He has attachment to the things that he can get with the money. Absolutely no way to reveal that repentance or anything else digital. Malachi, oh God. Malachi 3:6-15. I repeat all personally. Now, all you had over drama and failed to your worldwide test of faith, faith to upon faith. Oh, okay. Faith upon me. So accusing there. He even makes the line there. Below over drama and failed your worldwide test. He wrote that with a lot of energy. Test. It's like slashed there. Of faith upon me. But I don't have anything to say about this. I think I already said anything I needed to. Bye. I'll have the next video soon. Bye.